Praise the Lord! Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving headfirst into an incredibly fascinating theological detective story. We're breaking down some deeply complex source material to answer a question that's literally sparked intense debate for centuries. Is Jesus Christ merely a created angel, or is he actually God himself?
Now, that joyful greeting, praise the Lord, actually sets the perfect stage for our source material today. Our speaker kicks things off with this exact exclamation before plunging us right into a profound theological controversy. The absolute core of what we're looking at is whether the figure known in ancient texts as the angel of Jehovah was just your standard heavenly messenger, or if that title was actually masking the true divine identity of Jesus Christ before his earthly birth.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for unpacking this dense mystery. First, the angel of Jehovah debate. Second, the divine ambassador. Third, we'll track down Old Testament clues. Fourth, the hidden mystery revealed. Fifth, angels worshiping the angel. And finally, number 6, the coexisting divine persons.
All right, starting with section 1, the angel of Jehovah debate. The source material we're looking at tackles a really long-standing debate, specifically engaging with Jehovah's Witness theology.
So the speaker contrasts two very distinct viewpoints here. On one side, you've got the view often held by Jehovah's Witnesses, which essentially argues that Jesus in his pre-human existence was a created angel, a subordinate messenger. But then on the flip side, the speaker argues that while Jesus was sent as a messenger, he definitely wasn't just a created being. The argument here is that he was a divine messenger carrying Jehovah's absolute authority and full identity.
Moving on to section 2, the divine ambassador. The speaker uses some relatable analogies to explain how someone can represent a much higher authority.
And this brilliantly illustrates the speaker's point. Think about it like this. Just as the famous cricket player Sachin Tendulkar plays a match but the whole world says India is playing, or how an ambassador speaks in a foreign country but represents the full power and voice of America, the speaker argues Jesus operates in the exact same way. He's the representative sent from Jehovah, sure, but because he carries the absolute authority of the sender, he represents the full identity of Jehovah himself.
To back this up, the source grounds this whole ambassador analogy firmly in Exodus chapter 23. The speaker emphasizes a highly specific scriptural claim that God's name was actually in this angel. According to the speaker, being sent in God's name means you're carrying God's very identity. It's not just some polite introduction. It literally signifies that the sender and the messenger are intricately, uniquely linked in both authority and essence. Which brings us to section 3, Old Testament clues. Let's trace where this mysterious angel of Jehovah actually pops up in historical records. The speaker maps out these ancient appearances chronologically, and it's pretty fascinating. First, you see this angel appearing during the era of Hagar, later speaking directly to Abraham, and then famously appearing to Moses right there in the burning bush. The speaker points out something crucial here. While the text calls this figure an angel, which literally just means messenger, the way this specific figure speaks and acts, well, it's highly unusual for your standard heavenly servant. And here is the speaker's smoking gun. He points out this massive clue from the New Testament figure, Stephen. According to Stephen, that specific angel in the burning bush audibly claimed to be God himself, flat out declaring, "I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." The speaker's argument is that a mere created angel would absolutely never dare to claim this title, which proves this specific messenger was inherently divine. Section 4, the hidden mystery revealed. The speaker now shifts into the New Testament, where he argues this ancient puzzle finally gets put together.
So the crucial point here centers around this specific Hindi word used heavily in the source, marm. It means a divine mystery or a deeply kept secret. Citing Deuteronomy chapter 29 and Romans 16:25, the speaker shows how the true identity of Jesus was essentially marm. It was a mystery hidden right from the beginning of eternity. He lived humbly. He didn't constantly seek his own glory, and that kept his true, full identity completely veiled from anyone who wasn't meant to see it yet.
But it goes deeper than that. The speaker argues this divine nature was intentionally kept a secret, with active opposition trying to hide it. Looking at 2 Corinthians 4:4, the text claims that the god of this world, referring to Satan, actively blinded the minds of unbelievers. The argument here is that Satan specifically wanted to keep people in the dark, blinding them from ever recognizing Jesus as the exact image and equal of God.
All right, Section 5, Angels Worshipping the Angel. We've reached the absolute climax of the speaker's argument regarding the hierarchy of angels. I want you to think about this for a second. If Jesus is just a regular, created angel, as some theologies suggest, why do other angels worship him?
Now, what's really interesting here is how the speaker uses the book of Hebrews, specifically chapter 1, to answer that. The text explicitly states that God commands all his angels to worship the Son. The speaker's logic is pretty airtight. If Jesus was merely a fellow angel, this command would totally violate the strict biblical rule against worshiping created beings. Therefore, he concludes, the Son absolutely must hold a superior divine rank way above all created angels.
Finally, Section 6, the coexisting divine persons. Here we break down the speaker's philosophical defense of the Trinity.
Let's move on and see how this builds, because the speaker outlines some really fascinating philosophical logic. Basically, he says if it's possible for one uncreated, divine being to exist in eternity, then logically it's not impossible for multiple divine persons to coexist. Following the scriptural claim that the Word was with God, he demonstrates a second coexisting divine person, and then points to a third, ultimately defending the concept of three distinct, eternal persons coexisting in perfect unity.
Bringing it all back to the role of this divine messenger, the speaker references Colossians chapter 1. This text claims that literally all of creation was made by him and for him. So the speaker concludes that this angel of Jehovah, who was carrying the name of God and showing up throughout the ancient world, wasn't just some participant in creation, he was the very reason for it. And according to our source, the ultimate resolution to this massive hidden mystery is found in the realization of the Apostle Thomas. Upon seeing the resurrected Jesus, Thomas simply declares, "My Lord, my God." The speaker uses this profound moment to show that the mystery, that mandium, was finally fully understood by humanity. The messenger was recognized not just as an ambassador, but as God himself.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. How does unveiling this ancient mystery reshape your own understanding of the divine? We've traced the speaker's journey all the way from the burning bush to the Apostle Thomas, exploring these complex theological arguments through a totally new lens. Thank you so much for diving into this with me today, and keep exploring those deep questions.